Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. I love traveling, the excitement, the new places, seeing new people, but there's one part of the journey we all have to go through, and let's be honest, it can get a little weird. I'm talking about airport security. We've all been there, right? Taking off your shoes, pulling out your laptop, making sure your tiny little shampoo bottle is in a clear plastic bag. It's a whole routine, but let me tell you, some people's carry-ons are on a whole other level of strange. Today we are diving deep into the TSA's Hall of Fame of weirdness. We're talking about the most bizarre, the most unbelievable, and the most what-were-they-thinking items ever discovered at airport security checkpoints. Forget your oversized water bottle, we're talking about things that would make a seasoned TSA agent stop and say, "Alright, I've seen it all now." Live animals, actual weapons of war, well, sort of. It's going to be a wild ride, and trust me, you won't believe some of the things people have tried to get on a plane. Buckle up, put your tray tables in the upright position, get ready for takeoff. Before we get into it, I have to ask, have you ever had a weird airport experience? Or seen something totally strange in the security line? Let me know down in the comments below. I'll be reading them, I really will. I want to hear your stories. Alright, let's get into the madness. This is, you won't believe what they found at airports. Alright, let's start with something that's, alive and flying, but not in the way you'd expect at an airport. Picture this. You're a TSA agent, you're looking at the X-ray screen. Laptops, chargers, a few books. Then, you see a skeleton, a tiny bird-shaped skeleton. You're thinking, is that what I think it is? And yes, it is. People have tried to smuggle live birds through security. Not just a parakeet, falcons. Yes, falcons. Majestic, high-flying predators. Falconry is huge in some places, these birds are worth a fortune. So some people think, why not pop them in my carry-on? They've found them hidden in custom-built tubes wrapped in cloth inside a suitcase. Picture the conversation at security. "Sir, is there a live bird of prey in your bag?" "A what?" "Oh that's my, very feathery, alarm clock." "Yeah, it's organic. It's actually pretty common, TSA even mentions it. Travelers have tried taping birds to their legs or chest. Imagine walking through the metal detector with a falcon strapped to your shin. Whole new level of uncomfortable flight. You're worried about DVT, he's worried his leg bird will get agitated. It's not just falcons, parrots, hummingbirds, you name it. The smuggler's creativity is impressive and cruel, stuffing birds into plastic tubes or even hair rollers. Illegal wildlife trade is serious. Agents trained to spot birds on X-ray, a real skill. Differentiating a rolled-up t-shirt from a drugged cockatoo. Next time you hear a faint squawk in security, don't assume it's a toy. It could be a prized falcon headed for Spirit Airlines. That would be one memorable Spirit flight. But seriously, leave the birds at home, or buy them their own ticket. Some Middle Eastern airlines let falcons in the cabin. They get their own little seat, flying in style. Okay, so we've had live animals, let's take a turn for the macabre. And when I say macabre, I mean really macabre. We're talking about human remains, specifically human skulls. People have tried to pack human skulls in their luggage. First of all, where do you get one? Is there a skull store I don't know about? Aisle 4, next to the light bulbs and the human skulls. It's just bizarre. Customs officials have run into this more times than you'd think. They'll be scanning a bag and see a very distinct, round shape on the monitor. Not a bowling ball, not a coconut, a human skull. Sometimes they're hidden inside clay pots, sometimes inside souvenirs packed to disguise them. Smugglers fill them with other materials to fool the X-ray, but a skull is a pretty recognizable shape. You can't mistake it for a souvenir snow globe. Sometimes skulls are for medical or scientific use. Students or researchers transporting specimens without paperwork. You can't just toss a cranium in your carry-on next to your neck pillow. There's a lot of paperwork for a reason. Other times the motives are ritualistic. In some cultures, skulls are used in ceremonies. One famous case, skulls found in clay pots at Fort Lauderdale Airport. Travelers said they were for Santeria, to ward off evil spirits. So a TSA agent has to pull someone aside and say, "Ma'am, open your bag. We've detected a head." Can you imagine being that person? Or the agent? It's a conversation no one is prepared for. It shows you never know what the person next to you is packing. Clothes, souvenirs, or the skeletal remains of a long-lost relative named Yorick. Alright, from the creepy to the slimy, and numerous. Let's talk about the time security officials opened a suitcase and it was literally hopping. I'm not kidding. They unzipped it. Dozens and dozens of frogs jumping out. Absolute chaos. TSA agents trained for threats now chasing amphibians around baggage claim. It's like a scene from a cartoon. Agents slipping and sliding, trying to catch little green frogs. This actually happened. A man flew from South America to the US and packed his friends in checked luggage, packed in with clothes, hoping they'd stay put. Spoiler, they did not. Bag opened for inspection. Full-on frog exodus. On the conveyor belt, under the counters, hopping into other people's open suitcases. Ultimate travel nightmare. You open your bag at the hotel, a frog jumps on your face. The reason? The pet trade. Likely rare exotic frogs sold to collectors. Illegal wildlife trade. Smugglers want money, not welfare. Packed in terrible conditions, many don't survive. It's cruel. Think logistics. How do you get that many frogs into a suitcase? Do you have a frog guy? I need about 50, assorted. Nothing too loud. What's the plan when you land? Walk out with a croaking suitcase? A plan with so many holes it's almost impressive. You're bound to get caught. A suitcase full of living creatures is not subtle. Show X-ray again. Aftermath. An airport section turns into a temporary frog sanctuary. Animal control called in to round them up. Hi Animal Control, situation at LAX Terminal 4. Bring a big net. Truth is stranger than fiction. And a little bit slimier. Okay, this next one is just, wow, we've had animals, we've had human remains, now let's talk about actual legitimate weapons of war. Or at least what looks like one. A man once tried to check a piece of luggage at Baltimore-Washington International Airport. The bag goes through the X-ray scanner and the agent's eyes probably went wide, because on the screen, clear as day, was the unmistakable shape of a missile launcher. A full-on, shoulder-fired, movie villain-style missile launcher. I mean, can you imagine? You're the TSA agent, your job is to look for pocket knives and oversized bottles of lotion, and suddenly you're staring at something that could take down the entire plane. The protocol for undeclared surface-to-air missile is probably not on page 1 of the training manual. I'm guessing it's more of a call everyone right now kind of situation. The entire airport was probably put on high alert. Bomb squads, federal agents, the works. So, they track down the passenger, a guy from Texas, and they pull him aside for what is probably the most intimidating conversation of his life. Sir, we need to talk about your luggage. Specifically the military-grade anti-aircraft weapon inside it. And the guy apparently was completely calm. He was like, oh, that thing, yeah, it's a souvenir. A souvenir? Who goes on vacation and brings back a missile launcher? Honey, I got you a t-shirt, and for little Timmy, a decommissioned Griffin missile launcher. It turns out, the man was in the military, and had brought it back from Kuwait as a souvenir. And to be fair, it was decommissioned. It was essentially just a giant empty metal tube. It couldn't actually fire anything. But here's the thing, and it's a pretty important thing, the TSA agents don't know that from the X-ray. It looks like a missile launcher, it has the shape of a missile launcher, so they have to treat it like a missile launcher. You can't just roll the dice, and hope it's a keepsake. The item was confiscated, of course. The man wasn't arrested because he wasn't breaking any laws, technically, since it was just a metal tube. But he did get a very serious talking to about what constitutes an appropriate souvenir. It's a perfect example of why you need to think before you pack. Just because it's not dangerous doesn't mean it won't cause a massive panic and shut down an entire airport terminal. So, pro tip, if your souvenir has a trigger, maybe just leave it behind. Or at least mail it. If you thought a suitcase full of frogs was weird, get ready for this. We're staying in the realm of slimy, wriggly creatures, but this time, we're going bigger, and longer, and way more slithery. In 2012 at Miami International Airport, a man arriving from Haiti had his luggage inspected. The customs agents noticed something was off. The bag was moving and leaking. That's never a good sign. When they opened it up, they found a bag full of live eels, and not just a few, a whole bag of them. But wait, it gets weirder. Mixed in with the eels were 163 tropical fish. It was a veritable aquatic menagerie in a suitcase. The man claimed they were for his personal consumption. He was just bringing home dinner, a very, very fresh dinner. I'm not a chef, but that's not how you transport seafood. Usually it's on ice and, not wriggling. This was a tangled, slimy mass of living creatures. The agents were understandably baffled. The sheer quantity was suspicious. It's one thing to bring back a fish you caught, but this was a whole ecosystem. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service was called in. They determined this wasn't just a guy with a big appetite. This was likely illegal smuggling for the aquarium trade food market trade. Many of these species could be invasive and threaten local wildlife if released. Imagine being the customs agent who has to handle that. You put on your gloves, take a deep breath, and reach into a bag of squirming eels. That's a day at the office you never forget. You'd need a shower, a change of clothes, and probably a long talk with your therapist. So, I had this dream I was wrestling a sea monster in a suitcase. Sir, that wasn't a dream. That was your Tuesday. This is a reminder of the incredible variety of things people will try to sneak through customs. It's not just drugs, money, sometimes it's a bag of eels. It highlights the role customs and wildlife agents play. They're not just looking for illegal items, they're protecting entire ecosystems from invasive species. And in the process, they get some of the wildest stories you've ever heard. A bag of eels. You just can't make this stuff up. Okay, let's venture back into the realm of the truly bizarre and a little bit creepy. This story takes us to Boston's Logan Airport. A traveler is going through a routine customs check after a flight from South America. The agent is inspecting their bag, and they come across a strange, wrapped object. It's hard, it's oddly shaped, and it's hairy. The agent unwraps it and discovers a mummified monkey. A full, honest-to-goodness, dried-out mummified monkey. Sometimes the problem isn't that an item is actually dangerous. The problem is that it looks dangerous. This brings us to the story of the grenade-shaped perfume bottle. A traveler puts this in their carry-on, it goes through the X-ray, and suddenly everyone is having a very bad day. Terminals get evacuated, flights get delayed, the bomb squad gets called in, all for a bottle of Chanel No. 5's edgy cousin. The metal detector is a source of endless minor frustrations, right? But for one traveler, the metal detector revealed something a little more medieval. A woman was going through security when the machine just kept beeping. The TSA agents discovered the passenger was wearing a chastity belt, a full metal locked chastity belt. I need a moment to process the sheer awkwardness of that situation for everyone involved. In 2010, at Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi Airport, security staff were scanning bags when they noticed something very strange on the X-ray screen. When they opened the bag, they found a live tiger cub, a 2-month-old tiger cub, sedated and stuffed in a suitcase among a bunch of stuffed tiger toys. The cub was immediately rescued and taken to a wildlife conservation center. Thankfully, it survived the ordeal. This last one wins the award for most audacious, most bizarre, and most I can't believe they tried that airport security story of all time. In 2010, at Liverpool John Lennon Airport, 2 women tried to check in for a flight to Berlin. With them was an elderly man in a wheelchair, but the man was wearing sunglasses and he was very, very still. Airport staff noticed that the man wasn't responding to anyone. The man wasn't asleep, he was deceased. They were trying to wheel a corpse onto a plane. I am not making this up. It was a real-life weekend at Bernie's situation. The women were arrested on suspicion of failing to give notification of a death. It's a story that's simultaneously tragic and darkly comedic. And that's a wrap. What a journey, right? From falcons, frogs, skulls, tiger cubs, everything in between. The next time you're annoyed about taking your shoes off or putting your liquids in a bag, just remember, the person next to you might be trying to smuggle a mummified monkey. A huge thank you to all the TSA agents, customs officers, and airport staff out there who deal with this insanity every single day to keep us safe. I had so much fun sharing these unbelievable stories with you all today. Thank you so much for watching, for hanging out with me. Now I want to hear from you again. What is the absolute strangest thing you have ever seen at an airport? Share your stories in the comments below. If you had fun and want to see more unbelievable stories, please give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Thanks again for being the best audience out there. I'll see you in the next one. Bye everybody.